What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Age of Quarantine. How's everybody doing? I'm David Castillo from Saint Vitus. Welcome. Kind of got a new setup, new angle going on here. It's wonderful to see you guys spiritually, even though I can't really see you guys. But I'm about to interview the wonderful Matthew Knox. He plays with his brother and Damien. They started a band called Horrendous, which is truly just one of the great death metal bands of our time. Honestly, like, let's just say what it is. They're fucking sick. Horrendous is great. And I'm just really excited to talk to Matt today. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm having a beer today. I'm gonna have a Cane Sneak Box. Love these dudes. Great Jersey brewery. And yeah, man, we got a whole great guest lined up today. So, cheers to you guys. Matt, I'm sending the request. Cheers. All you gotta do is accept. Let's see what happens. It's technology, baby. We're a DIY show, and we are just riffing. We don't give a fuck, man. We're just in it to win it. It's just me alone in the room. Hey, look at that shit. What's up? There he is. Dude, your hair is mad long. What's going on? This is amazing. Look at you. You look great.
We're still rigging this up for like a minute. Let me make sure we're here.
Let's see what we got going on here. All right. We're good. He's rigging it up. We got a whole...
Good. I'm a little crooked here, but that's okay.
It's good. I actually went for higher production value. Your first high production value client is Horrendous. So wow. I just want to let you know, Matt. It's been a long time, man. It's so good to see you. We've actually played music together before. When my old band White Widow's Pact has played with Horrendous. Great times. It's good to see you. And like, let's just fucking get into it, man.
Let's do it.
Philadelphia's finest. We're right here. I'm right in between New York and Philly nowadays, in Asbury. So here we are. Let's set the scene. We're going back, right? We take the musical journey here at Age of Quarantine. We'd like to chart everyone's journey, their course, right? So I know you as being, part of this Philly band and stuff, but did you grow up there? Is that where you're from?
So I didn't actually grow up in Philly. We grew up kind of, I'm also trying to see if I can get a little more sound here. I grew up like right outside of the city, about an hour southeast, kind of in the middle of nowhere, actually. It's like farmland and like churches and schools, and that was kind of it. Like not even a grocery store around. It was like a 20-minute drive to one of those. So Philadelphia was kind of always like just the hotbed of where we would go for music. And my mom's actually from Fox Chase area, so we had family here, and like we were used to going in and out and like being here and all that. So it was a natural place for us to kind of come back to.
Got it. Cool. So you're growing up over there, kind of a little bit outside the city, and I think a lot of people, PA is really like, it gets pretty rural fast. Like it kind of, as soon as you head outside the city, maybe like an hour away, you're like, wow, okay, I'm out here and stuff, right? So growing up, how did you start first encountering music and stuff of that nature when you were young? What was it kind of just like, when did you notice that you were attracted to music just in general when you were like a kid?
Give me 1 second, Dave. I'm gonna try to get some headphones so I can hear a little bit better.
Okay, cool. We're gonna produce on the fly. That's cool. Yo, check this out. I got another record for you, right? I like this one too. Look at this shit. I listened to this the other day. Shout out to my man Frank Wong for hooking me up with this Terminal Bliss record. Yo, this shit is great. Here, listen to this. Terminal Bliss. It's really good. Okay. I'm just sharing some music pics with the people while we get our shit nice and tight.
All figured out. All right, yeah. So I think what you were asking me, if I get this straight, is basically like, when did I start like having an interest in music or like developing?
Yeah,
that?
Exactly. Just like growing up and shit, like what for me it was like pop radio was like, I was like dancing to it all the time, and I was just like, I felt completely, and I hadn't really listened to music in English before. My parents are from Bogota, So I was just like kind of enamored by like this pop radio in English and stuff, you know? So it was like super attractive to me. So I'm just wondering for you, when did you notice you're like, ooh, music kind of has a little bit of a spell on me?
Oh yeah. Honestly, the funny thing about that is like I feel like I was fairly indifferent to it for a long time. And then I mean my mom grew up listening to classic rock, so we always liked like Led Zeppelin and like Jethro Tull and stuff like that. Um, and I want to say, if my memory serves correctly, it was when Enema of the State came out, that Blink-182 record. That was like the first time my older brother, that was the first like CD he ever bought with his own money. And I just remember him bringing that home and us being like, oh man, like this is a huge deal here. And from there, like I remember flipping through kind of like the thank you and like the credits list of that record and just picking up all these other punk bands. So that's kind of when it started. But in terms of like playing music, I'll never forget, we were kind of into punk for maybe a year or so at this point in time. And this family friend of ours brought over his guitar, his Fender. And I think it was just like a cheaper end Strat model. And he brought that over. I just remember holding it and touching it for the first time, being like, okay, I absolutely have to get one of these. Like, this is going to be my life. And I have to embrace that at this point. And I was like 10 or 11 at the time, probably.
Nice. So that's really interesting. You know, everyone has an entry point, right? Like at any particular thing. Like for me, my brothers were into rock music in like the 80s and stuff. So it was like Guns N' Roses was like the first thing I ever saw that had like guitars, and it felt like in that way, you know? But then when I got a little bit older, it was really my best friend's parents were into classic rock, and then what was on the radio, it started being Green Day and Rancid and so on and so forth for me. Like you know, I might be like a touch older than you, but we don't need to talk about that. Come on. But at the same time, it was like that sort of thing to pull you in and being like, hey, I like this. Like this is super cool, and it's about me, right? Like you're discovering your music when you started picking up, you know, guitar, and you were like, wow, like I can do this too. I have this thing in my hands and I see my heroes doing this or whatever. How was it just to start playing and stuff? How did you like learn songs and figure shit out?
Oh, it was amazing actually. So, I'm trying to, I feel like, so I first got a guitar actually in sixth grade. So I was what, like 11 or something, 12. And I remember just like fooling around with it for a while, and I ended up getting lessons. My mom got me lessons from this guy, and he is really the one to blame, I think, for all the metal. So it was this kind of like biker dude and I remember going there for the first time and walking in and seeing him. Now, I, of course, at the time was going to Catholic school, so I was like a sixth grade Catholic school kid wearing my uniform going into this place. And I remember meeting him today. He's got the long, he had like an Ozzy shirt. It was like a 2000s era Ozzy shirt on. And I just remember being shocked and be like, oh my God, like, can I be around this guy? Like, is this okay? Like, what's going on? This is crazy. And within the first two sessions, I remember him like sending me home and asking me what kind of songs I wanted to play and like learn. And I came back with this list of like Kid Dynamite and like Rancid songs. So that's what we were into at the time, and still am in a lot of ways. I still love those bands, but I remember bringing those to him and being like, all right, this is what I want to learn. And we did that for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I just remember the next time going in, he kind of looks up with me with this grin on. He's like, we can keep learning these songs. Like, this is really cool. Or we can do something like this. And I just remember him, he had this like weird Zoom effects pedal and like played this nasty, like Zakk Wylde-esque solo in front of me. He's like, or we can start doing stuff like this. And I was like, all right, I definitely want to start doing this. Like, give me a list. What should I listen to? And he sent me home with like a list of 10 bands to check out or something, with Iron Maiden, of course, at the top. And I still have the list somewhere, so I have to check it out. But it was like, he named the bands and then like a particular record to check out. So after I left that day, probably a couple days later, ended up going to the mall or something and buying Peace of Mind. And I feel like ever since that second happened, like it was just all over. The minute I got Peace of Mind home was like flipping through it and listening to it and being like, oh my God, this is freaking ridiculous.
Totally. It's a really incredible thing. And I say this over and over again on the show, but I love these random influences and moments that you're like, yo, this biker, you know, guitar player guy, he's the one. You know what I mean? Like, no, who thinks of that, right? But like every person has like, it was a brother, it was this neighbor, it was these random folks, and I love hearing this shit. So he literally gave you the list. He's like, all right, kid. He's like, Iron Maiden, you know, you got your Judas Priest, you know, he's probably like giving you this sort of rundown. Did you feel like also, because you were learning this with like an instrument in hand, right? Like you weren't just like listening to these bands and then being like, oh man, like I'm inspired, maybe I can go pick this up. Like you already kind of were leveling up playing as you're getting into these bands. It's sort of like, you know, a direct relationship with you kind of playing and stuff like that. How was it, you know, just kind of discovering that stuff and thinking to yourself like, wow, like I got real big mountains to climb here, right? When you're looking at the greats and all these harmonizing guitars and solos and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, dude, it was incredible. I mean, I feel like the minute I got that record, just like the immensity of the band and like how legendary they were, which it's like bleeds through the music. And I think hearing something that like bombastic and over the top is what really changed everything for me. And I had the luck, since I was only 11 years old, like I feel like I was naive enough to think that I could match that kind of stuff. And I think about this all the time. I used to teach guitar for a couple years a little while ago, and I feel like starting an instrument at that age is so perfect because you just don't know that you suck. Like you don't know that you're horrible, and it's easy to like suspend disbelief in that moment and be like, "No, I'm going to be this rock star," and like you don't hear what you're doing, you don't hear yourself, and I think
Do you think that it's also like you're willing to be bad too? Like
yeah, exactly.
that you're like, fuck it, I'm just having fun with it. Like there's not a pressure to be like, I need to sort of be great. Maybe you know you have a mountain to climb, but you're like more willing to fall up and down as you kind of climb that mountain. Feel like you get older and you feel like, oh, I'm supposed to be good at something, or how will people view me, etc., etc.
Exactly. No, and it's just like I feel like being able to dream so vividly at that age like made all the difference too. Because like we're consuming all these ridiculous albums. Like I remember getting Rust in Peace not long after that, and that pretty much set the tone for like my playing in general. I'd say for most of the rest of my guitar playing years, and kind of like approaching songs that way. And it's like, well, here's the bar. Like this is where our songs have to be now. And the other benefit I had growing up, so Jamie, who's in the band, I mean, obviously I grew up with him, he's my brother, and we had a friend down the street that was also kind of into the same stuff as us. And the minute I got a guitar, I kind of just like convinced them both to buy an instrument too and start a band. So we were playing with me on guitar and my brother on bass and our friend on drums since I was like 12 years old or something. And I think just having like a real outlet to actually give me a reason to practice and like give me a reason to play and write music is very much what like fueled, I think, getting better and like wanting to keep going and going.
You had a couple other no limit soldiers with you. That's basically what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
like they're willing to go and squad
Yeah.
up. No, but it is really an incredible thing. I feel like, you know, you talk to people who have, you know, siblings or have been playing for a long time together and are able to kind of just, you know, kind of just develop with somebody, right? There's a lot of people I know who are like, I was playing in my room for 5 years before I could ever find anybody who even remotely liked the fucked up shit that I liked, you know?
Yeah.
But then you're like, yo, me and my brother, we were just there too, but you had somebody else like in tow. So at that time, as you're kind of learning about metal and stuff, tell me about what it's like. First of all, I'm always fascinated by the brother thing, right? Or like the sibling thing. There's a long history of siblings, obviously, from the Van Halen brothers, et cetera, playing with one another, playing off of one another and stuff. But I think part of it is literally growing together for so many years. It's like by the time you're 20, you know, you start at 11, you're already playing for like a decade together. How many bands do that, right? So what was the first sort of iterations of playing together? Like what kind of stuff were you trying to do? What were you messing around with?
Oh my God. So it was definitely like skate punk stuff almost. So after a couple of years of listening to all different kinds of punk, like we eventually came to RKL, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but and I feel like the minute we got one of their records, like we just tried to copy exactly what they sounded like. So the first couple of years of us playing, it was very much this like weird speed thrashy type punk-ish stuff.
For other people who might not know who they are, could you just kind of give a little bit of a vibe, or even a punk vibe? Like we're thinking like Fluxed Pink Indians, Amoebics, maybe Rudimentary Peni, right? Tell me a little bit about like, just set the scene for people who might not be.
Kind of like, well, number one, if you haven't heard the band, you definitely need to hear Rock and Roll Nightmare, because it's incredible. And I want to say it came out in like 87 or 88 or something, and it's like blazingly fast punk music, but with like metal riffs and really interesting. The guy who wrote all the songs at the time, I think he's just a really interesting and amazing songwriter. So like kind of these weirdly dense and like rhythmic riffs that you wouldn't typically hear in a punk band, and also kind of like these thrash influences that were going on at the time as well. And it's madness. It's insane. You definitely have to check it out. But for some comparison's sake, like if I love NoFX, if anyone else loves NoFX, like their record Ribbed is very much like kind of an RKL influenced album as well. And like if you ever watch some interviews with Fat Mike, it's the same thing. They love RKO, and he was hugely influenced by them. So like the early NoFX sound, where it's like a little faster, a little more raw, there's like weird riffs going on, that's kind of the RKL template.
Totally. And even stuff like Propaganda or whatever.
Oh yeah,
yeah, who are fabulous guitar players, and really kind of pull from the metal genres to do what they do. So you guys are kind of playing with this sort of thing. Was there like kind of like, I feel like sometimes you're always, when you're younger, looking for something maybe a little crazier, a little heavier, a little faster. It's always like a little bit of an arms race, right? To kind of like find that stuff that like scratches that itch or goes a little bit higher, right? As you were doing that, did you feel yourself trying to break off into more, kind of extremity, or were you just really trying to kind of stay true to what you guys are doing?
The funny thing is, like, for a while we were staying true to that, and I have memories of us practicing like every single day after school, and I don't know how accurate that is, but I don't know how my mom like sat through that, because we would just play the same like 8 songs day in and day out, and like never had shows booked, or I mean there wasn't really anywhere to play where we grew up, so it was like I don't really know what we were working toward. It was just like the ultimate expression of our own music or something, or the songs that we played. But because there was like never, we did play one gig actually after like years of playing the stuff together outside in a park to like 10 people who were mostly like our parents and like our friends and stuff. So it was bizarre. But in terms of the musical shift, I think the thing that really changed that, ironically enough, is our friend that was playing drums in that punk band with us for a while, like, and there's all different kinds of legends and lore around this event too, but from my brother and I's perspective, like we just didn't see him for a year. Like he just decided to not hang out with us for a while and wasn't really interested in playing music. So Jamie was like, and Jamie had never played drums at the time, so he was like, all right, we got to do something. Like I can't just be bass and guitar anymore. I'm just going to start playing drums. So that started the seed of, really that's what started the seed of Horrendous, like years and years ago, is him just deciding to like maintain the ability to have it feel like a full band and drums and play that. So I feel like when that shift happened, we started getting a little thrashier and still kind of had a punk-ish backbone, but largely still punk influenced until we met Damien in college. This was like 2009 at this point. And I remember playing a couple songs with Damien, and we like showed him some of our stuff, and we were like, yeah, this is cool, but it wasn't really like working together. And then I think Damien ended up playing this like death metal-ish riff, and we all kind of joined in, and like that's when the band formed, basically. We're like, oh, we can all do this together. And then that kind of brought us down that line, which is funny.
That's really interesting. So, but it's like, I love it, is like, it's like the scarcity of the people to play with where you're from, right? Where were you guys going to college? Because obviously that's always a big shift in a young person's life, right? It's like going to college. Like I talked to Aaron Turner on this, and he was like, I went to college in Boston because I knew there was a good music scene there, like he's like this brilliant artist, but he's like, I wanted to make sure I was in Boston so I could participate in that music scene, and and then we get ISIS. Like, thanks, Aaron, for sacrificing your education for us. But
it always happens.
What was it that brought you guys together? What college? And you're playing to 10 people in the park, but then you got to leave the nest, right? So tell me about those choices.
So my older brother, I mean, he was interested in biology, and I think the connection was made like my dad knew some old professor of his or something that recommended that we check out South Carolina. So Jamie went there just to visit and see how it was, ended up going. And he and Damien were actually friends for like before I got there, like 2 years before then. And just like hung out, didn't really play any music together, but they were just both into metal. So they hung out, were friends. And of course, when it became my turn to go to school, it was like, I know it's not necessarily common to go to the same places like your siblings, but I was like, no, fuck it. Like, I want to keep playing. Why would I not go? It was just an easy choice for me to know to go there. So I ended up going to the same school, met Damien, hung out, and we started jamming together. And here we are, I guess. Years and
Yeah,
years.
definitely. So tell me a little bit about the progression at that time, because it feels like you guys are more rooted in punk and stuff, but punk with like, you know, lack of a better word, like more like virtuosity, right? You know, there's a certain parts of punk that are very kind of straightforward, and then there's, as you kind of reach the edges of punk and stuff like that, you start seeing, you know, kind of everything from like, you know, anti-C-mix and stuff, people playing really fast or doing other things that starts evolving into, you know, the extreme genres, the heavy music that we all really like, right? So, you know, what started kind of tilting things more over that? Was that more like Damien's influence showing you guys stuff, or where were you guys, you know, in terms of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we definitely, so at the time when we started jamming with Damien, like Jamie and I were very much more into traditional metal and like thrash and hadn't really gone that far beyond that. And the funny thing, now that I'm thinking about this is kind of a backtrack, but in terms of like our musical evolution and what we were listening to in getting us into like heavier and harder stuff, and I'm rewinding the timeline here, like 5 or 6 years or something, but
It's cool, man. We're time travelers, man. We can do it all. So yeah, we're good.
But it's a hilarious story though. So we were into like punk, thrash, traditional metal, and stuff like that at the time, all the classic bands. And the drummer of the old punk band always used to bring up these like sampler CDs. Like he would just put random bands on it and not tell us what it was. It was like this game of whether we liked it or not. And I recall him playing, I think it was an Avenged Sevenfold song from like Waking the Fallen or something. And that was the first like time we really heard that much of like actual screamed vocals. And I remember my mom walked in like, what is this? And I was like, oh, he brought it. It was Garrett's. It's not mine. And like, there was this, for whatever reason, I was like horrified that this was even in my house at that point in time. But of course, after that, from there, like, I think if I had to trace back like the more extreme stuff we were listening to, I think it started with Avenged Sevenfold. And then from there, like, oh wait, there's this band At the Gates, and that was Slaughter of the Soul. And then from Slaughter of the Soul is like what really opened the gates for us in terms of getting into the more extreme side of things. So going back forward in time now, with that context, like Jamie and I were into kind of like the more melodic death metal stuff at the time. So we loved Heartwork, we loved Slaughter of the Soul. I was a huge Arch Enemy fan, like Burning Bridges in particular, In Flames, like the older In Flames stuff. And
Sure, a lot of the Swedish kind of melodic vibe.
That and hadn't really played much of it. We were still kind of rooted in the more rhythmic stuff and more like punk stuff and thrash. And then Damien got us into like proper old school death metal. So that was the first time we were hearing like Entombed and Dismember and things like that. And that's kind of what I think influenced the beginnings of Horrendous anyway, to getting us to play that kind of stuff.
Definitely. So when you guys are sort of, you started playing and you were like, wow, this is clicking, like this is cool, we really like are sort of starting to feel this and whatever, what was it like just kind of, you know, bringing the band together, coming up with a name and feeling out songs? Is it always like, hey, we get into a room and we jam? Like, how did that sort of evolve, and what was it like kind of just bringing that band together? Because obviously it's like, okay, cool, like we're in college together, we can have this period of time to like make something happen, and we want to kind of present it in a particular way as well. But it feels like an era, but you guys have been around for a really long time, right? You've transcended that clearly. But I'm always kind of curious. It's like, what was just that sort of formation like? We sit down and, you know, you guys have been a band who's toured, you've done a ton of awesome stuff and, you know, done all of that. But was there like this sort of thing where you were like, yo, this feels really good, let's give this a bit of a go? Or did we just kind of like vibe into it? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Oh man. So the funny thing is, I think when we truly starting out, our practice, where we would practice was just like a public storage space, and there were a bunch of bands around Columbia at the time that did the same thing. So you kind of like drive this car into this kind of out of the way storage facility. It was like a public storage, but like not one of those kind of like chain places, some like weird off the beaten path place. And you'd pull in, there'd be all these people playing music. It was great. But yeah, we would just kind of get together and jam. And like, I think the first track off of the demo that we released was like the first thing we actually wrote together.
Is that the Chills?
No, so we have an EP that was like a demo that we sent around to labels, which is how we got on Dark Descent in the first place. It was called Sweet Blasphemies. And track one, The Mystic, was the first song that we actually did. And I remember after that came together, like we loved it, we wanted to keep writing stuff, and me being a semi-crazy person who always wants things moving quickly, I ended up booking us a show for like a month later when we only had one song, and kind of told everybody later. So it was the next practice, I was like, all right guys, we're playing a Battle of the Bands at New Brooklyn Tavern, which was like the only kind of alternative punk place in Columbia at the time. And I was like, hey, we have a show in a month and we only have one song, so we gotta start writing like a lot. So of course, like practicing ramps up and like everyone's freaked out. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into. And the other funny bit of information there is that at the time this name was never a serious consideration, but at the time, kind of as a joke, we were called Fallacy, but spelled with like Phall.
That's amazing.
Because we were like actually playing a show at the last minute, we're like, all right, we got to have like a real name. So I think we all just kind of sat around and were thinking of what to do. Nobody really had any ideas. And from what I recall at the time, this was like 2009, pretty early 2009 probably. Like the death metal revival was happening, but it wasn't like it is now. There weren't all these like waves of bands that were coming out. And at the time, we were kind of just like, what did all the old bands sound like? There'd be like one active, like one word. That's all it is. We were just sitting, like kind of throwing things at the wall, like, this, and nothing sounded that good. And I want to say Jamie came up with it like studying for an exam or something. It just like popped into his head. And upon hearing it at first, we were like, oh, there's no way that's not taken. Like it has to be taken from some like obscure band in 1988 or something. So we're
sure.
The first thing you do when you think of a band name is you go to Metal Archive and you search it. And when search revealed that there was nothing, we're like, all right, I guess this is it. We're doing it. Horrendous.
That's incredible, because I felt the same way about the name. I was like, how are these motherfuckers rolling in with fucking Horrendous as their name? They're fucking sick, but there has to be others, right? And then I'm like, nah, they just kind of killed it. Like, I feel like you just stole it underneath our noses, like, the entire time. And I was blown away by that, because I was like, here we go, there's a Horrendous. Yeah, cool, man. I'm just like, there has to be like 22 Horrendouses. Obviously, like, 3 probably techno groups called Horrendous, guys called Horrendous.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a couple breakcore dudes. And then it's like, no, like, they are Horrendous. Like, this is it. And I thought that was absolutely incredible. Like, you slipped one past the goalie in an incredible way.
That is how it's just because of like
fair play.
Of course, so many of the other like words and phrases we had were like very complex and like standing out too much. And then we're all like, oh, wait a second. Like, the simplicity of Horrendous was just put it over the top for us. We're like, all right, this is it. That's what it is.
And I feel like that's what you want out of a good death metal band, like if in a way, like it can't sound nice. It has to be mean and dirty and kind of disgusting. And it has to kind of give you something of that nature, right? And like Horrendous is just like, it just fits I'm just like, God damn it, these motherfuckers did it. This is such a goddamn good name. I remember when I heard it for the first time. I think it was just after the Chills had come out, in between those two records, and I was just getting to check you guys out, and it's like things were really starting to kind of happen and stuff like that for you, and starting to play Vitus, and we started doing some stuff together, and I was like, damn, they nailed that shit. So you guys start playing 1 month after you wrote your first song. You really kind of are like the Liam Gallagher of the group. You kind of like said, yeah, man, we have like 40 of these. Don't worry, bro. And meanwhile, you don't have like anything. So what was it like kind of just playing the first gig and starting to kind of get out there? And was playing live like very key to kind of developing the sound? Because I'm always curious about that. There's certain bands that like we practice, and then never played, and then we just played and like boom, it's there. And they're really like thinking about that as they're writing. And I think that there are other bands and artists who are like, we play, that song kind of that song really hit them really good. Okay, cool, let's go back to the lab, figure stuff out, write more, and kind of rapid test, kind of back and forth. What was it like for you guys?
Yeah, for us, I think like at heart, all of us are like pretty quiet people at the end of the day. So I think for us, playing shows is very much a thrill in the sense of just getting to be someone else and like to get up and go wild and like become what everyone wants you to become when they're at a metal show. It's like permission to become this legend almost. And in the beginning, just because of where we were, like there weren't that many places to play. So like I recall wanting to play more than we did, but we were also kind of stuck and didn't really know where else to go, because there's the one venue that we would play, New Brooklyn Tavern. Like we would play there every so often, but after a while it was like, we don't want to play this place every week. It's not going to make sense. So it was very much more on kind of the writing and the production side, and just making sure that we were creating the best material that we possibly could. And the live shows didn't really start happening very often until later on. And I don't recall that being like because we didn't want to so much, as I said, just like out of necessity. And like we wanted to play more, but we were in this place where it didn't make any sense. And also there was a certain period of time where Jamie was studying abroad, so we were like remotely writing stuff and preparing, because we didn't, by the time like we really formed, I think, and like released the tape on Dark Descent and Skeleton Plague, it was like Jamie was off, and then there was some other thing happened, and then by that point people were graduating, and like the band still existed, but we weren't all in the same spot anymore. So it all happened pretty fast.
Definitely. And was there like kind of those restrictions of like being in school and stuff like that? And like and I say restrictions because like they're choices, right? Like when you're in a band, you're in a collective, and there are your choices and then there are our choices, right? And that's oftentimes why bands either go well or they go awry, or like they don't accomplish that much or whatever have you, right? Depending on whatever it is that your goals are and what you're trying to do. Did you feel like, okay, cool, like we're doing enough and I'm sort of satisfied at the moment, but like I think that we're getting a little bit of attention from some cool labels, and I feel good about the product that we're making, and we're getting better at playing and doing this stuff, that you know what, man, we got to kind of take this shit on the road and like kind of get out of our South Carolina, one bar comfort level.
Yeah, out of the bubble.
Yeah, the bubble. Yeah,
I
like
think
the NBA.
For us, like because of it, we were kind of plagued for many years with somebody in the band having some like obligation they couldn't get out of. So for a while, it was like Jamie was in grad school and like working on a PhD and stuff like that. Damien was like in jobs at certain points. I had to finish my degree at like later because I'm a bit younger than them. So it seemed like the perfect storm for a lot of years of like not really being able to fully take things on the road and like make a go of it, so to speak. But the other thing that I think I don't always think about, but the more I like recall and process what actually happened in the history of this band is like, I don't think any of us really saw a lot of potential in what we could do and where we could go until like Ecdysis came out, honestly. Like we the Chills got some great reviews and like some great things happened with it, but ultimately like it came out, the buzz died away, and then we were still in school slash some of us were working at that point, kind of just like went along our merry way, kept going. And then I remember Ectasis coming out and like this huge response to the record, and that's when we kind of all sat and looked at each other and we're like, oh, holy shit, like we could do this if we want. Like it was almost like giving us permission to really try it, which is a shame because I wish we had like taken that road a bit earlier and like believed in the music and threw all caution and like all the proper way putting to the wind at that point. But that is really what did it, I think. Like,
totally. And but that's also incredible though that was a validating moment. And maybe if I can play the foil to you for a moment, you took the time to kind of work on the sound, you know, go in there and really like focus on the playing, focus on the writing, doing the things that you can do. Sometimes that's, you know, that's time really well spent, you know, like we're a long way from getting the first Fender Strat 11, right? Like we were continuing along this path of like gaining skills, gaining these stuff. I know Damien makes records, is, you know, also, you know, recording and making stuff, right? And like to get all of that into its right place, it takes a lot of time and development. And then there are lives happening here, you know, like the band it's made up of people, like, and you're saying obviously like, hey, we have you know, we have school and other things, you know, there was other ambitions and stuff. But sometimes when you sit back and you're like, okay, what can we focus on? We're going to focus on the product. We're going to focus on our playing. We're going to focus on just making this art, right? But then you were able to kind of get that out there, and that can sometimes lead to wanting to go further. Can you talk a little bit about just putting that record together? And it was kind of, you know, when you look at it, right, it's like the artwork is now, it feels like it's part of a trilogy, right? Like everything kind of took a different tone. I feel like there was a lot of proggy elements that started like weaving its way into it, you know? Because when you look at the Chills and stuff, right? Like if you put that record out today, you're like, oh, SDM, blah, 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 right?
yeah.
But it's not really like what I think of with Horrendous at all. And I kind of missed that part of the band. I was kind of in between. Like I was like, oh, I heard it a little bit, but then the new shit was already coming out at that time. So I was kind of in between both things. And I was like, yo, this band from Philly, they're fucking the shit. You'll like them too, because it had I either like my shit like super stupid or like super smart. So I was like, to me, it felt like smart but great, you know. And I was like, man, they're a three-piece. Like, what the fuck's going on here, you know? So tell me a little bit about putting that record together. And like you said, you couldn't tour that much at the moment or whatever. Were you in Philly at that point already, or were we still in South Carolina putting it together? Tell me about it.
So me and Damien were still in South Carolina. And I think I was in like my last year of undergrad or something, like before going to grad school, which like I say grad school was like 1 year to get a teaching certificate so I could teach high school basically. But we were still down there, and Jamie moved on to he was working at NIH basically, kind of like between his own undergrad experience and before he started like a PhD program for microbiology. So we were split up and like completely.
See, what did I say? Smart. See?
And most of the writing for that happened like Damien and I would kick around some riffs, and then Jamie would come and stay for like a 4-day week. We would just play in the living room of our house at the time for hours and hours on end, like writing stuff together. And in terms of the evolution of sound, I think like obviously on the Chills we were trying to be like as fast and like classically death metal as we could. And I still think like there are some touches here and there of like melody and other elements too, but kind of once we got that out of our system, I feel like we were just like, where do we go from here? What do we want to do? What kind of stuff do we want to make after this? And I want to say at the time, like we just all kind of collectively had this huge resurgence of like interest and love and obsession with traditional metal, but not like just the classics like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. Would be like listening to things like Manila Road and like stuff more off the beaten path. And I think we kind of wanted to take that attitude, like the stadium attitude of bigness, I guess, I don't know, and melody, and finding a way to work that into the sound. And in addition to that, like trying to steer away from the traditional melodeath approach, which is like, again, like the very Gothenburg-y sounding stuff, steering away from that, but using melody more of like, I don't know, big sounding melodies like Judas Priest or something, rather than the more melodic death metal stuff. And in addition to that, I think naturally, just like every record that's come out, we're always trying to push ourselves musically. And that's kind of what it was at that point. So like, what can we fit in here that will still sound like us and still sound like the band, that kind of pushes our sound a little bit forward? And that's largely been the philosophy since then. It's just like, we kind of get to a place, we see where we are, we look around us, we're like, okay, this is really cool, this stuff worked, let's take it further, let's bring in this other dimension. And I think that desire just to grow as like songwriters is often
totally. I mean, I hear that as well. Like, I mean, and it makes a lot of sense to me. It's kind of funny, you know, going back in the interview, it's kind of, you sort of are brought back around where you started, right? Like bringing in things of Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, and like, you know, and you said, you know, Rust in Peace and stuff like that. And I can definitely feel that and hear that. And even like, you know, when I first heard it, I'm like, whoa, this is cool. It's like, you know, they're taking this sort of like progressive death metal approach, and I feel like there were moments of like voivodness in it, like moments of these sort of different things, and I'm like, this is cool because it's like, it doesn't sacrifice the ferocity for like the virtuosity, which I always hate. That's always a big no for me. If you're wondering about the things I hate, that's definitely it. You have to have the power, but at the same time, you can reach powerful moments in so many different ways. And I'm like, this is you know, this is a band that has a lot of tools to take me different places. And that always really excites me, especially in a genre, you know, like death metal, where, you know, you can kind of paint by the numbers a little bit. And I feel like on the Chills and stuff, I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. All right, cool. Like, I get it. But then on the next one, I was like, oh, okay, this is the flashes in the first thing. It's like, you know, you guys were like a good player with a couple of good flashes. You were like an all-star on the next one. I was like, oh, fuck, okay. And you kind of kept pushing that and doing that. So that definitely, those bigger triumphal moments kind of come in. And I love that you mentioned Manila Road. What a fucking sick band. Amazing. Had them play, you know, legends. But so you get, you make this thing, right? And it really like sent sort of some waves too. I feel like it was one of these records where, you know, we played together at Vitus, and the first time you guys had played, I think I saw you guys and maybe like 75 to 100 people showed up, and that's a cool show, you know, no diss. But then the next time we played together and the place was packed to the fucking gills, and you started seeing kind of that. And, you know, I'm a Talent Fire show booker, right? I'm like, I pay attention to this stuff, and you're starting to see the press and stuff, but the product, everything you put out there was great. What was it like kind of riding that wave a little bit, and then also being like, wow, all right, we have to be like a live fucking band right now. You know, people are coming to see us, and there's, you know, we got to pack Saint Vitus, and we got to walk upstairs and like deliver a headlining set. How did that feel kind of coming into your own in terms of doing all of that sort of stuff? Because, you know, it kind of happens a little bit, not overnight, because this show is meant to show you there was like literally fucking 20 years of work put into this. We started at age 11, guys. But at the same time, when this kind of moment happens, it's really cool, and it's interesting to see. So tell me a little bit about just kind of riding that wave and how it was for you guys.
I think like when it came to Ectasis, I mean, by the time we sent the album in, like, we were all just immensely proud of what came out of it. It's like, holy shit, we did this. This is amazing.
Banging.
And when people started to notice that, that's 100% in my eyes the reason why Unretta came out so quickly after Ectasis. We were kind of like, oh, we're here now. And we were writing songs from that perspective of like something that we had to live up to, where I feel like Ectasis, we kind of just did whatever the hell we wanted to do, and we didn't know if it was going to work. We had no clue. Like, we thought people might hate it because it was different than what we were doing on the Chills. And then I feel like, again, Ectasis kind of gave us this not only permission to keep going in that direction, but also gave us a bar to kind of have to reach for the first time. We're like, oh shit, we gotta make sure this is good. And I think riding the wave of the excitement of that moment is what made the record come out so quickly, because it was 2014 and 2015. They were out back to back. So, and it's the same thing with live performance. Like the minute we started getting more people going to the shows, and again, we didn't really have a long period of time of playing shows frequently. Like we would play one-offs, we would play small festivals. I remember coming up for one of those Vitus sets from South Carolina. Like we drove 12 hours to play the show and then went home the next day, you know?
You poor things. Thank you for doing that for us.
Yeah. Oh, it was.
Yeah, I remember because we played in like January or February. And in that time period, I'm always trying to get bands to play and maybe do one-off stuff. And I was just like, dude, we got them. That's awesome. Yeah, I was like super excited about it.
It was amazing and well worth the trip too. So yeah, we were kind of in this weird space of like, that is what our world was for many years. It's just, we play a one-off thing. We don't play for months on end. We like write. And then suddenly when Anoretta came out, really, and we started getting like larger tour offers, that back and like, all right, number one, we need to get a bass player. Like we can't keep playing. We played without bass live for a long time, like a criminally long time.
I mean, I saw it, you know, and I saw it with bass too, man. And I was just like, woo, this is a new thing. I was pumped about it. And that's something that obviously I wanted to tease out with this. So tell me about adding the bass player in there live and stuff like that. What yeah. I mean, was it like, all right, man, we got to just fucking do this. Like, come on.
Yeah. And for us, I mean, it was weird for us too, because like Damien and I always spent a lot of time writing the bass tracks for the record. So it was like, we had these really complex and kind of like well thought out bass tracks going on the record, and then you come to see us live and inevitably people be like, I was waiting to hear those like bass riffs in this one part, and we're just like, oh shit, I'm sorry, like, yeah, we don't have a bass player yet, like this whatever. And I don't really know how we got away with it for so long, because I feel like if I was a fan and I went to see a band and like I'm expecting to see these crazy things going on an instrument and like no one is there, I'd be pissed. But so thanks everyone for bearing with us, I guess. But
the guy disses his own band. I love this guy.
Yeah, so that whole period was going on, and I think another part of why we never really got a bass player, A, we weren't playing all that much, but B, it had been just Jamie, and our friend Damien for so long. It was like, it almost felt sacrilegious to like bring someone else into the picture. It just didn't seem right. So for a while,
big deal. It's like inviting somebody else into your family. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, there's beyond the playing dynamic, like between us and the rest of the internet, you know, like Horrendous songs are a little bit difficult to play. Like it's not like anyone, you know, we're a long way from the Blink-182 records, you know.
Yes, exactly.
But so it's not the easiest shit to play, and then also you have to have the band dynamic be right. So a lot to consider. So how did you find that person, and how did the process go?
Yeah, so believe it or not, like a completely random act of fate is what brought us together. But the kind of going backwards just a little bit before that story, at the time we were just getting a lot of great show offers and like needed people to play bass in general. And it was just like you said, all the issues we were having of like, A, who do we know that even plays bass? B, are they good enough? C, do they like metal? Do they even want to do it? So all these questions were in the air. So to kind of start us off just with higher profile gigs that we had coming up, we just kind of reached out to our friends that were in bands locally. So this is probably a little known fact, but for the first couple shows we did have bass. It was actually Steve Jansen from Crip Sermon playing bass for us. I think it was like,
yeah, I love Crip Sermon, man.
Yeah, so I think it was 2 gigs or something of that. And I also, maybe a little known fact, at the time, right before this, I guess kind of concurrently with this moment, I was playing bass for them for a little while. Like somebody left their band and they were kind of in the process of finding someone else. So I actually played with Crip Sermon for like close to a year, I want to say.
Did you play Vitus with Crip Sermon?
I did, yeah.
I remember that. And I was just like, yo, they got the motherfucker from fucking Horrendous. This is
Oh,
great. I'm like, I love
yep.
this dude.
So,
This is perfect. I'm like, this is, it's always nice to see like friends or people that you like and bands that you like unexpectedly. You're like, oh shit, you're in this? Oh, you're Philly. Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's really cool. So you guys kind of traded a little bit, like helped each other out.
yeah, yep. So exactly. So that was all going on. And a little bit later, I think, so I was living in Philly at this point, me and Jamie were anyway. And I was just went to this, like a very basic loser, went to this brunch spot in Philly. And I was sitting there with my girlfriend at the time eating. And I think I was wearing a Voivod shirt, like the Dimension Hatros album art.
See,
And
you were looking for it, man. You were
I,
looking for it. You put that shirt on, good things are
I
happening.
all times. So I wore that to the place, and I forget what was, there was some type of like jazz playing on the speakers in the restaurant or something, and the waiter that I had commented on my shirt. He was like, "Yo, nice Voivod shirt." So of course we started talking about metal a little bit, and then I was asking him like what kind of stuff he was into. He was saying he grew up with metal, but at the time was like really into jazz and specifically playing jazz. So during that meeting, because again, I'm a semi-crazy person, I got his number and I was like, yo, we should jam sometime. And I feel like when most people say that, they don't actually mean it. They're like, yeah, we'll jam at some point down the road and we'll get together. But of course, I was like actually calling him a week later, like, yo, let's get together and play. So I get together with him, I go to play. He is like this monster musician. I was like embarrassed as hell in front of him, honestly, dude. I was like playing guitar in front of him, like, oh my God, like I can't, this is madness. This is insane. So that happened. And then a lot of time actually passed by before we got together again, but we had another higher profile gig come up. And I was like, you know what? This dude is amazing at guitar. I bet he's pretty damn good at bass too. So we call him up, we get it together, and that's officially when Alex actually joined the band, was to play. I think I want to say it was like the Choosing Death Fest or something in.
Oh wow. So like right into the fire, huh? Like
Yep. So he went from like you're learning songs to we're playing Union Transfer, which is like a 2,500 capacity place.
yeah, man.
We're like, all
Like
right, go.
yeah, like hey, by the way, brunch is canceled.
Brunch is canceled.
We got shit to do. But that shows you wear a Voivod shirt, you never know what might happen. Good things can happen. You might get a bass player out of it. But I love that part of this is your hustle, right? Like you've consistently been like, you know what, we're gonna actually try and make this happen and stuff, like you were saying, right? You're like, oh, okay, cool. Like actually I'm gonna follow up. Actually I'm gonna follow through. And in those instances it's worked. Maybe Damien can come on like an uncut version, tell me the times it hasn't worked, but so far you are batting 1,000, Matthew, in the like not giving a shit and going for it. And that's really amazing too, because at the time, yeah, like you said, you're playing places like Union Transfer. There's nowhere to hide there, man. Like it's huge. I've played there before, opening for Dillinger Escape Plan one time, and one time opening up for Into Another with Primitive Weapons, one of my bands. It's an amazing venue, beautiful. I saw the fucking Jesus and Mary chain there, like, so once you have that going on, it's really cool. And the reviews are in. I'll tell you what the reviews are. It's fucking sick. It's great. I loved it. Once I saw the 4-piece come up, I'm like, all right, boys, here we go. There we go. This is what I need from you. You can't be like, I'm like, the accolades are pouring in, and I'm like, come on, let's get the bass player. But it's beautiful. All of us have definitely loved that. And that felt like the big period for the band. And then it was quiet for a while, right? Because the next record came out, I believe, in 2018, right? So you had like a pretty big layoff. Was it just to kind of reload the chamber aesthetically? Like, okay, we did two things sort of back to back, right? You said you kind of felt like you got to this place and everything was like cool, but then we got to kind of search for the next thing, right? So yeah. Is that kind of what it was, or was it like, hey, this is getting kind of intense, let's just chill for a minute? Tell me about that sort of choice to take now, like a 3-year break, and after that,
part of it, I think, like, if I'm trying to recall here, like the stream of events that happened around that time. So when we went on our like first bigger scale tours around that, like 2015, was with Tribulation, which was like the greatest tour of all time. So that was our first like proper tour, and again, just pure luck in that case. It was like the greatest experience ever. And then not long after that, like 6 months to 8 months later, Albert from Decibel hit us up about doing the Decibel tour. So that was another huge undertaking. So throughout this time, like if I'm remembering correctly, we weren't spending all that much time writing. Like Jamie and I were messing with some stuff in Philly, but like we didn't have a lot of full band practices at the time that weren't devoted to like getting ready for gigs or getting ready for tours or something like that. And also I think just the knowledge that like with Anaretta getting a lot of noise as well, it's like, all right, we really have to do something like crazy this time. So I think part of it was kind of reevaluating where we were and seeing where we wanted to go and what to do. And again, like life circumstances just kind of got in the way too. Like Damien has always lived in the DC area, so we've never really been able to have like everybody lives in the same place, so we get together on a random Wednesday and practice. We've just never been that band, which is unfortunate for us. But that kind of played a role too, of just like coordinating everybody to get together to like write it. By the time we went to actually record it, it was a nightmare because it was like by far the hardest stuff we had done before. So I'm telling you, like, no joke, I think we had a full record of drum tracks recorded that took like months, and we just threw them all out. We're like, nope, this sucks, and like started over. So that happened a bunch of times with Idol as well, where it's just like starting from the drawing board, starting from scratch. And also during that period we switched labels, so that was a lot of like work and kind of I don't know, different schedules to get on and different things to consider. So there's all that going on, and then like fitting into their release schedule. So it was kind of like the perfect storm of events that led to that, because we all would have liked for it to come out earlier, but it just didn't happen with all that stuff together.
Sure, yeah, and that's something big, because you guys, what was the label switch? It was Dark Descent to
Season of Mist.
Season of Mist, right? So in that, you know, it's like for the fans out there, it's like, yo, we could be finished with music kind of like quick, and then you won't see it for a year, you know, or a year and a half. So there's that sort of process as well. So that's why I was really curious, because I thought that there was, I remember now, there was the label switch, but then there's also, you know, just kind of reloading the fucking chamber and figuring out, you know, where you want to be. And I feel like Idol, it was like, this is even another sort of step. And to me, that was even the more proggier step too, where it got a little bit weirder in like a good way. But, you know, you were bringing a lot of different things to the table. And I love that, you know, I'm like, cool, you know, art's hard to kind of always come back and just, do you want them to make Anaretta like 5 times or whatever?
Yeah.
And I think that the time away, I felt like, ooh, this feels fresh. This is good. And I love how there was like, feels like there's a lot of quiet and then big on that record and stuff like that. Like the dynamic play was really nice on that record. And I felt like it kind of was a bit, you know, even though it still retains a progginess and a busyness, you guys bring it down and up. And like, I was like, ooh, I'm feeling all these dynamic shifts. And that was really cool. So to me, it was just like, oh, time spent went well to kind of get to kind of new places and new levels. So with bringing that together, what's interesting is you guys have always, you know, kind of had this sort of consistent aesthetic visually for the past 3 records, even though the changes, I feel like the first 2 of this sort of like, to me, like when you kind of made it a shift up in terms of not only like profile but sound, right? The Chills would kind of leave in like the gestation period, but these last 3 feel like really like these movements for the band. What's it like kind of presenting those things in the artwork and stuff? Because it also feels that way, right? Because the way the art is, everything like that. Talk to me about just putting the records together. How do you kind of, you know, choose who you work with and do things like that?
Yeah, oh, of course. And now that I'm sitting here and thinking, I have one more reason for why it took so long, which is hilarious and kind of shows how much I think about the other parts of my life. So when we were recording Anaretta, like I was between school and work at the time, and Damien kind of just stopped some job he was doing and took time off. So like part of the reason Anoretta happened so fast, which I always forget, is I just lived at his parents' house with him for like 6 weeks one summer before like I went back to work basically. So that's all we did. Like we got the drum tracks down and then he and I would jam on songs, we'd record stuff, we'd take a break to eat lunch and watch the X-Files, and then we would get back to it. And it was that just for weeks on end. And that's partly why that record came out so quickly. But after that, like I started working a real job and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like the experience of having to
This is the end of the interview. I'm so sad. No.
yeah. That is a shame. But in terms of the art, very quickly, if I can wrap this up. So we started with Ecdysis. We really just looked up art. I think we actually typed into Google surreal artists or like surreal artwork and like looked at a bunch of people and across this guy, Brian. So we emailed probably 10 people after doing research, and one of them was Brian Smith, and we kind of told him what we were looking for, but we didn't really give him much direction, honestly. We're kind of just like, we love these 6 paintings, like anything that looks like that, go for it. And he came up with this a couple months later, and we were all, of course, blown away. So since then, he's always been our first choice, and he did the next 2 album covers as well. And we've kind of just given him free reign. Like we never really give him much of pressure or like strict ideas of what he has to do. It's kind of just like, here's the music, listen to it, do what you want to do. Sometimes we'll give like a color palette, but that's it. And we just kind of let him go. And the cool thing about Brian is that for whatever reason, he like refuses to work with any other bands. And I think he doesn't even want to work with us that much anymore, but he kind of keeps doing it to like be nice to us, I guess. I don't know. I think he just doesn't want to be in that scene. So it's been this really cool symbiotic, I hope, relationship between us and him, where like I feel like our sound's kind of wrapped up in his visual style as well. Like he very much brings another element to the band, I think.
Definitely, and that's why it feels that way to me, because like I said, the last 3 records all together, you know, you kind of, I feel like it hit a new plane, and then you're playing around with all these different kind of like moments of prog and thrash and death metal, and just pushing all those things to its edges, and we're just kind of along for the ride, you know. But there's now more of like a unique, consistent aesthetic that's sort of like there's a thread that you can pull between all of those particular 3 releases, and part of it is the artwork too, like the visual representation. Like,
yep, definitely.
You know, you see it, you're like, that's horrendous, and like, and it's pretty amazing that he doesn't work with any other bands too. Yep. So you're just like, it reads like visually, you know, so easy and so well. So I gotta ask the question, because everyone's probably wondering, like, what the fuck are you guys up to? Because it's been a couple of years. So have you been writing, reloading the chamber? Obviously, COVID, it's like a mess to do anything. Talk to me about that.
Okay, COVID is a mess. However, since Damien records and produces and masters and does all the wizardry for that kind of stuff with the band.
Thank you, Damien. You're a fucking G.
Yeah,
appreciate you.
We have actually been able to get together, and we are like a couple songs in to a new record. So it's happening. I don't know exactly when. I don't know how soon or how late that will be, but we are very well underway with the new material. So
I love to hear it. I love to see it. I think that what we need to do is we need to start a Horrendous Hostel. I think Horrendous Hostel is the way to go.
I'm ready.
And so we just put you guys in there for like 6 weeks at the Horrendous Hostel. New record, cool. No, but this is great. This is great to hear, and it's cool that just bands are active, you know. And like, look, no diss on anyone who can't find the inspiration to create right now. It's a fucking crazy time, you know. But everyone's kind of wondering, and since the last record came out in 2018 especially, right? And it's like, some people have stuff that just haven't even been released, right? You're just like, oh, you know, we were supposed to put it out, but then we've just held back because of touring, the craziness around the time. So it's really interesting to sort of hear about that. And then, you know, I got to do a little self promo for both of us, but we got together, you know, Horrendous, Glorious Depravity, Saint Vitus, to do a live stream, which is, we have tickets available now. We also have, new exclusive merchandise just for the stream and stuff. And it was so cool that you guys made the time to come up, play the bar, and actually play it. And to, kind of have like a show like that, and to be the first part of now a series that we're hoping to continue with bands. What was it like just kind of coming up to the place and playing and like doing a live stream? Because it's not something everybody's necessarily done, right?
Yeah.
Making TV.
Exactly. Yeah. No, dude, it was a really incredible experience for us too. I have to say, like, I remember when we got the invite to do it, we were all ecstatic about it, because we just, like, as everybody else is feeling, we were just kind of in this like void and black hole of COVID world. And I think just having the opportunity to like step into that life again, even though there's like nobody there was enough people there for it to matter, like we had 5 people there filming it. And I do think being able to kind of engage in that again and like feel the spirit of metal once more, like truly, and be in that space was really magic.
Totally, and there's something also about just playing on a real system too. I feel like, right?
Yeah.
Like I think when you're used to playing too, like there's something about being in the studio, like doing all this stuff. This is cool. Like I like it. It's rad. But like I can't put this stuff, and you can't put your guitars and stuff through like a system like Saint Vitus's unless you got like a fucking, I don't know what your house is looking like, but and that's like kind of at the minimum. And it's just so awesome to feel you're playing your music through a real ass system like that and just feel it, right? And it's just, even when I get excited sometimes for a good practice with the band, because you can never have that in your house. I make electronic music and I can at least feel that in my house a little bit, but I don't have like a house where like I would have a full band to play, But then there's the other level of it, and I think that sends like a shiver on my spine, man. Like legitimately, it's just, and you can't do that just anywhere. And I think this time really makes me think that way. Obviously, the people and the energy and the kineticism of connecting with your, fellow, kind of like metalhead or whomever, like is at that show. It is awesome, and everyone being part of like a live ritual or something.
Yeah.
Even just the raw ability to play that way, like, I mean, fuck, man, it's something, right? And so,
and even and again with how COVID is, it's like just the 4 of us being able to share that in that moment too. I think is huge, and like be able to live and communicate in that way that we hadn't in so long. So it was great.
Totally, man. Super cool. And was that one of the few times that you've all been in the same room together, like over this time?
It was. Or... We just started kind of getting back together and recording and things like that. Pretty much coincided with the show, actually, because I feel like the show happened, and that is kind of what initiated us really starting to get back together again. So we were like, all right, we did this for the show. Like, we can just keep going with this. Let's start writing again. Let's start recording again. And since then, we've been trying to get together like once a month to work on stuff. So
Saint Vitus is the executive producer of the new Horrendous record. You heard it here first.
That is what started. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome though, and that's really cool, and that's always what we've tried to be, right? And is to from our end just have great bands play, have great moments, and like that can always propel you forward. So at least from our point of view, it's just really cool to have you guys be able to do that, and hopefully just bring some people together, even in the band context, because I know so many folks who one of them moved away and another one they just haven't gotten together or whatever have you. So it's really nice to sort of see that, and then obviously to have Glorious Depravity on, who are a local great band, just like a great death metal band. If you guys on this stream haven't heard them, check them out. They are playing with Horrendous on the stream, but like they have a great record out that you can go on to whatever streaming, buy it. It's just fucking great. So to have I was like, this is a show I would love to put on, and to have that happen even virtually is a good look, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh yeah, no, I can't wait. And I was so like the beginning of this whole conversation, I was too like frazzled to actually get all the thoughts I wanted out. But thank you, A, for having me here, David, and thank you for inviting us to play. Thanks to Vitus for supporting us. I mean, throughout the years, not just now. It's been years and years of support from y'all. So we really
Totally, man. It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure to talk to you. And one of the great things about this is like we've known each other for years and bumping into each other and doing all this great stuff. But I learned so much doing these things. It's super cool, even with people I know. So it's great to have you. Thanks a ton. Guys, check out the live stream. We're going to get a new Horrendous record sometime, remember.
Yeah.
But it's happening, and we're all excited about it. So, Matt, thanks so much. Appreciate you. And, you know, I'll see you on Friday.
Yep.
And it's available all weekend. So I'll see you this weekend, guys. All right? Have a wonderful night. Take care, dude.
Thank you.
Peace.